The diamond being serves Buddhists most immediately as the emblem of the process of spiritual purification and restoration. Deep identification with him by means of a daily set of systematic practices will, it is said, reverse the effects of infringements on tantric vows, as well as purifying destructive mental tendencies. The diamond being is, in all essential respects, the Tibetan equivalent of the grandfather of the Navajo tutelary divinities. He is the incisive power of the East who wields the diamond thunderbolt of wisdom energy for the betterment of all beings. He is the Buddha associated with igniting action toward enlightenment. He is the model state toward which all practitioners strive, symbolized by his white, actually transparent body that glows with the clear light of the mind and the energy of enlightenment. He is the model Buddha of transformation. In both traditions, this initiator divinity is of such prominence because in order to realize the goal of living an effective spiritual life, one must properly begin the journey. The light at the start of the day, the urge to spring into life, the spring at the beginning of the cycle of the year are all evidence of this axiom encoded as talking God and diamond being. Not surprisingly, it is Talking God who, during the Nightway ceremony, oversees the initiation of Navajos into the transformative path of Navajo religion. Similarly, tantric practitioners often take initiation in the Diamond Beings Tantra as preliminary to further practices of Tantric Buddhism. The psycho-spiritual significance of the dawn was eloquently described by the Tibetan master Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche in his teachings on inter-Asian spiritual warriorship. He likened the heroic journey toward the mind's primordial ground to the dawn of the Great Eastern Sun. He explained the way of the Great Eastern Sun is based on seeing that there is a natural source of radiance and brilliance in this world, which is the innate wakefulness of human beings. The basis of the Great Eastern Sun vision is realizing that the world is clean and pure to begin with. There is no problem with cleaning things up if we realize that we are just returning them to their natural, original state. But just as the sun always rises, it too sets, and this inexorable movement operates within each body-mind, and is symbolized by the partnership of deities of East and West. As such, the Diamond Being's incisive clarity of mind is complemented by another esoteric tutelary of supreme importance in Tibetan spiritual life. Residing in the western quarter of the mandala is boundless life, Tsepame Amitayus, an aspect of the Buddha of boundless light and co-emanation with boundless love. Tsepame's role as the Buddha of boundless life is invoked during frequent long life empowerment rites known as tsewang, as well as by offerings at shrines bearing his and other long life divinities' images. Boundless life's western realm, the land of sunset, is a place of abundant light, sustained life, and boundless compassion. We can confidently compare the unified mind stream of the Buddhas of boundless life and boundless love with the nurturing and loving qualities of the Navajo's calling God. For Navajo, the role of the psycho-spiritual nurturer, harvest bringer, and protector of life and home is held by Calling God. He is the complementary, supportive energy, thought, and action to the extroverted leadership qualities of Talking God. He is Talking God's constant companion in sacred narratives and ritual. He is the warm glow of the West balancing the brilliance of the East. He is, in body color, the warm yellowness of life compared to the icy whiteness of active mind. In Navajo symbolism, yellow is the supporter/nurturer, and white the initiator. The Tantric symbolism, red is the color of its Buddha of nurture, boundless life, while white is the color of the initiator, the diamond being. The metaphor of the rising and setting sun, the active, motion-filled times of the solar cycle, is perfect to describe the journey of life. Sunset is a contemplative time, a time for pulling thoughts, feelings, daily actions, and people together, a time for living, as the Navajo explain. According to this interpretation, the dawn reality of Talking God is one of thinking, the dawning awareness, while the twilight is the time of coming together and living. living based on the harvest of seeds germinated by thought. Indeed, the divinities of sunrise and sunset of the Navajos and Tibetans are compelling symbols of this axiom of nature. We'll return to this comparison several times along the way as we delve even deeper into their roles in the circle of the spirit. A universal spiritual ecology. The pantheons of both traditions express the seamless oneness of things, differentiated into anthropomorphic and dialectically opposed qualities and powers. Western scholars have named this most universal of spiritual systems pantheism. Pantheism is the highly practical expression of all the interlocking, interconnected, real energies of the phenomenal world, which naturally issue out of the source of the primordial ground of reality. The theism in pantheism signifies that these natural quanta are stylized into deity symbols for convenience's sake, never forgetting, however, that they are all aspects of the One. Pantheism provides a reasonable and natural way of comprehending reality. Seeing reality in this holistic way teaches that we, all beings and phenomena, are connected by subtle qualities of mind and vitality, and by a more obvious physical network founded upon biological symbiosis. And we are also linked by a pervasive system of actions and their resultant effects. These are like the complex pathways in a spider's web, or the moving concentric waves produced in a pond when a rock is thrown into its center. We are all, humans, animals, and non-corporeal beings, subject to the processes of this universal law of cause and effect, which has been best explained by the Buddhist understanding known as karma in Sanskrit and lei in Tibetan. Karma refers to the total state of one's life system, which is inextricably linked with those of all other thinking and feeling sentient beings. One's karma, Tibetans blithely call it luck, is a fluid, ever-changing matrix of interlocking causes and effects in which one's fortune rise and fall according to the results of one's and others' thoughts and actions. If effects manifest either immediately or, as is most often the case, much later down the line in terms of years, generations to the Navajo way of thinking, and lifetimes to the Buddhist understanding. Ask any Tibetan or traditional Navajo about one's place in the scheme of things, and the answer will inevitably be that we must act, speak, and think respectably and reasonably toward others. The Navajos say that we are all people, earth surface walkers, swimmers, crawlers, flyers, and sky and water people. Tibetans know that we are humans, animals, worldly gods, and demigods, ghosts and hell beings, and a host of aboriginal earth powers. Regardless of category or description, we are all inextricably connected through a system of actions and their effects, which can go according to cosmic order or fall out of synchrony with it. To really know one's connection with the ultimate scheme of things brings humility, a sense of responsibility, and a certain composure. It also brings a quality that in the neurotic state of imbalance manifests as a passionate desire to possess or control people and events. But in the balanced body-mind, it is the purified version of passion, which is co-passion, compassion. When one lives with Tibetans and Navajo Indians for extended periods, one notices these positive qualities very clearly in them. The personalities of both exude responsibility, reasonability, and measured and thoughtful consideration toward others. True understanding of one's connection with the scheme of things inevitably yields such qualities. I once had the good fortune of attending a talk by the late scientist and humanitarian Buckminster Fuller. Already an old man, he reflected on the deepest lessons he had learned from life and said that he believed the primal quality of the universe to be mind and love. Like Fuller, great Navajo and Tibetan philosophers and visionary travelers relied on more than faith to come to the identical conclusion. They all were and still are spiritual scientists. As such, they operate by means of a partnership between inspiration and experimentation, contemplation and reason. To know the true nature of things requires an understanding of the connection between the most ephemeral and subtle processes of mind. That is the complete mind, which includes the awareness and the heart, and the external physical reality that both affects and derives from the causes of mind and love. After centuries of spiritual scientific inquiry and practice, Navajos and Tibetans have come to the same basic understanding of the link between the psychic and the physical, the noumenon and the phenomenon. By imagining idealized deity personas from their respective concepts of the infinite, Tibetans and Navajos are aided in forming mental and experiential connections between these two levels of reality. Having explored up to this point the outer and intermediate levels of spirit in the sacred world, we now approach its heart, its essence, which both traditions describe as the light of mind that is carried on the subtle wings of divine wind. Wind of life, light of mind. Everywhere there is a sense of wind as a creative spirit, an invisible force exercising in the modern parlance a genetic influence. Lyle Watson. Legend has it that during the 13th century a divine wind churned up the Shinto divinities of Japan, destroyed a fleet of warships sent by Korea by the Mongol Emperor Kublai Khan. 600 years later, young Japanese aviators called themselves kamikaze, the divine wind, in identification with the same purpose. Kami are Aboriginal Japanese versions of the elemental powers permeating all phenomena. Kazi, the wind, is the subtle yet powerful source of the mind energies of those powers. Similarly, Navajos and Tibetans, indeed most of the intact indigenous cultures of humankind, know the essence of life and basis for thought to be the subtle vibration of energies that manifest externally as the breath. Not only do the earth and sky breathe with the gales and jet stream, and the body with its breaths, but there is a special, much more subtle form of circulatory wind that Tibetans refer to as lung, pronounced lung, and the Navajos nichi. The Chinese call it chi, while in India it is prana. For all, it is the most subtle breath of life and the vehicle of the mind of humans, as well as all beings existing within all phenomena. As such, the breaths of animals and plants, earth and sky, and individual body-mind are conceived by Tibetans and Navajos to be composed of the same vibratory energy. Both traditions recognize the subtle wind power is the basis of life and of the light of awareness. By way of analogy, the wind of life is like an electric current's amperage, its power. Without amperage, the voltage cannot travel along a wire to do its work. Likewise, the voltage of thought cannot proceed without the subtle wind of life to support it. Wind and mind in Navajo reality. Wind and light, the Navajo envision them existing together as colored mists. An old-time chanter and philosopher explained to the Franciscan scholar of Navajo religion, Father Berard Haile, that when the first cloud or mist of light formed at the beginning of the creation of the first world, it turned into different colors, like a wind of the same color issued from it. First there was black wind, then blue wind, then yellow wind, then white wind, and finally a many-colored wind. These were made for the people of the earth, and each of these is a holy time of the day from which comes certain powers, explained the old chanter. Some chanters explained that it all began when a dark mist first formed. It was like a black rain cloud, full of potential for creating life on earth. Other chanters describe the first light as white, not unlike the Tibetan description of the primal mind's light. These combinations of mists and wind and light are said to distill into a glittering array of all four colors, which one chanter called the rainbow of the earth. Seen in the Navajo way, the world is a sacred array of rainbow-colored lights to the cardinal directions arising, then fading one into the other, and finally into a distillation of all the colors. Along with the light come colored winds associated with each kind of light. Light and wind are for the Navajo the most subtle forms of energy permeating the cosmos. From the winds and lights come life. An aged chanter explained through vivid metaphor that the mists of wind and light of the four directions merged by laying on top of each other like intercourse, and the supreme sacred wind was created. This supreme sacred wind lived in light and black clouds or mists in space. This transformation actually proceeds in both directions, where the supreme sacred or holy wind both creates and may be derived from all phenomena, be they mists, mountains, or humanity. The Navajo know Nichi'i to be the wind energy that animates and coordinates all actions, expressions, and mental events. It is the most all-pervading of substances. It is distributed in all the inner beings who live within all phenomena and causes them to breathe. The sacred mountains that define today's Navajo land are the products and repositories of holy wind. While these massive conglomerates of earth and rock are home to a great range of animals and plants and are possessed of an inherent physical power due to their height and mineral content, they are much more than their forms. They are also filled with a fundamental kind of power, as they are the dwelling places of holy people, and it is through them that the mountain breathes, thinks, protects, and is alive. The indwelling holy people of mountains and most natural phenomena have wind souls and vital winds of such excellence and purity that the Navajos say they are without faults. Although earth surface walkers are composed of the same kinds of winds as the holy people, our inner winds are not yet fully without faults. We are still unempowered, blocked from realizing our own divinity, spiritual power, and lack full knowledge of what it means to be holy people. The winds that course through the mountain, its wind soul, are seed-like emanations of the parent body of holy wind. While Navajo chanters and philosophers may differ in particulars, there is general agreement concerning the basic process behind the animating winds of mountain and body mind. But to explore properly this most subtle level of Navajo reality, we will begin at a level between material form and the innate winds of life and mind. Within each holy mountain, indeed within every significant environmental feature and being, is Bigistin, the inlying form. Chanters and philosophers tell us that in ancient times, all beings, such as plants, animals, clouds, lightning, stars, and so forth, had a visible, partly human-shaped form. This form can now be seen only through the powers of the imagination. Gary Snyder calls the mental ability inner standing, seeing the inner nature of things. The Navajo understand that certain holy people were placed in these natural phenomena in order to coordinate the phenomena's powers. Thus, the real sense of the often hard opponent, the inlying form, lives and breaths for them, and breathes for them. It is just like a real breathing human. The inner forms are dressed in the physical attributes of the mountains and give each mountain its unique character. Different ceremonial lineages assign different inner forms, but all serve the same purpose of maintaining proper balance and synchrony in the Navajo sacred environment. While inner forms are known to exist in all sacred places, the four cardinal mountains have particularly important beings in residence. Let's first consider the most important of the four sacred mountains, Blanca Peak, Cisnagini, or East Mountain. East Mountain is a distinctive snow-capped pine and fir-clothed peak in the southern Rockies of Colorado. It is considered the leader mountain because it stands at the holy mountain of the east, the place of beginnings, the dawn. It is associated with the guiding light of the day and the qualities that dawn universally signifies. As with all significant Navajo mountains, East Mountain was created and fastened firmly to the earth by the first people to emerge into the fifth world. According to a splendid Nightway narrative of the creation of the fifth world, collected by Washington Matthews at the end of the 19th century, East Mountain is fixed to the earth by a bolt of lightning, a thunderbolt, whose intense light and quality of energy is most appropriate to that of the dawn. East Mountain is dressed in sacred white shells, white lightning, white corn, dark clouds, dark with moisture and procreative potential, and the dark thunderclouds, hard-driving he-rain. At the summit, 2 eggs of the white rock pigeon, the mountain's native bird, sit in a bowl made of white shell. Instead of a warm abdomen of a pigeon to incubate and hatch the eggs, a sacred buckskin is used as a cover, much as it covered the white and yellow corn ears that were transformed into first man and first woman in the previous world reality. Just as the wind divinity breathed life and mind into the corn ears, so too are the instanding wind soul of the rock pigeon and the sacred mountain breathed into the eggs. Existing within the 4 sacred mountains are their indwelling, inlying forms. The inlying forms have been compellingly visualized by the contemporary Navajo artist Harrison Bege in his series of paintings, The 4 Sacred Mountains. Bege includes representative wild animals and medicinal plants on the white shell-covered flanks of the mountain. Above the mountain floats a dark thundercloud, and above it a black thunderer, one of 4 that bring life-giving rains and embody the raw powers of the upper life, the sky. The thunderer of dark cloud and pollen is adorned with eagle feathers and all forms of lightning. A major lightning bolt issues from the feet of the thunderer and pierces East Mountain, fixing it firmly to the earth. The large size of the indwelling divinities of East Mountain, Rock Crystal Boy and Rock Crystal Girl, indicates their relative importance. Big A chose to depict them as realistic human youths in pre-9th century dress, but in the mind's eye of the chanters and philosophers, their bodies are constituted of rock crystal. This is only natural, since the mind is considered clear as crystal, and east is the direction of the thought itself. The divinities sprinkle corn pollen onto the slopes of the mountain, blessing this apex of the earth's surface. Thus, these indwelling forms of East Mountain empower the mountain, which in turn watches over the earth's surface people. That these divinities are of both sexes reflects a fundamental tenet of Navajo philosophy. They express the unity of complementary energies and are manifestations of the 2 primal winds composing Holy Wind. South Mountain, Mount Taylor, is an enormous extinct volcano located between Albuquerque and Gallup, New Mexico. The Nightway narrative relates, the mountain to the south, they fastened to the earth with a great stone knife, thus through from top to bottom. They adorned it with turquoise, with dark mist, she-rain, and all different kinds of wild animals. On its summit they placed a dish of turquoise. In this they put 2 eggs of the bluebird, which they covered with sacred buckskin. And over all they spread a covering of blue sky. The boy who carries 1 turquoise and the girl who carries 1 grain of corn were put into the mountain to dwell. West Mountain, San Francisco Peaks, another extinct volcano, towers over Flagstaff, Arizona. Matthew's Navajo narrator continues, the mountain of the west they fastened to the earth with the sunbeam. They adorned it with haliotis shell, with black clouds, he-rain, yellow corn, and all sorts of wild animals. They placed a dish of haliotis shell on the top and laid in this 2 eggs of the yellow warbler, covering them with sacred buckskins. Over all they spread a yellow cloud, and they sent white corn boy and yellow corn girl to dwell there. North Mountain is Hesperus Peak, a prominent snow-capped summit in the San Juan Range of the Rockies of southern Colorado. On clear days it can be seen floating above the northern reaches of the Navajo's land. The Nightway describes it in this manner, the mountain of the north they fastened with a rainbow. They adorned it with black heads, with the dark mist, with different kinds of plants, and many kinds of wild animals. On its top they placed 2 eggs of the blackbird, over which they laid a sacred buckskin. Over all they spread a covering of darkness. Lastly, they put the pollen boy and grasshopper girl in the mountain to dwell there. Anthropomorphic forms are used by the Navajo to symbolize the deeper reality of phenomena such as mountains, because these physical forms share the same subtle stuff that gives life and thought to human beings. To the Navajo, our inner winds and mind are the critical factors linking us to the cosmos and the means by which we establish a harmonious relationship with it. Providing human forms to the indwelling powers reinforces this relationship and makes identification easier with one's universe, much like relating to another human being. The Circle of Navajo Reality. Envision a great snow-capped mountain with an overwhelming presence. It is dawn, and the mountain glows with incandescent light. Rings of multicolored rainbow light are being emitted in waves from the base of the mountain, much like the eddies produced by a rock thrown into a pond. From the outer ring rises a rainbow pathway that goes directly to the mountain's lofty summit. The three rings of rainbow light on the Circle of Navajo Reality's layout, see diagram at right, refer to natural phenomena, mountains, cardinal horizon lights, humans, animals, plants, and celestial bodies, and their indwelling spiritual forms and energies. Their degree of subtlety of form and energetic quality increase toward the center, much as the strength of an onion increases towards its core. Rising at the center of the circle is the metaphysical mountain. It symbolizes the unity of these levels of reality and of the holy wind of life and universal mind that are united at its base. All aspects of Navajo reality arise from the abiding state of beauty, the mountain's summit. The rainbow path signifies the journey of the Navajo's spiritual heroine into the state of beauty and his or her return as an empowered being to teach the sacred ways learned from the holy people. The Navajo understand all phenomenal material reality to have its origin in the partnership of Nilchii, holy wind, and Nitseheki's universal mind, which permeate the cosmos and are themselves expressions of its beauty. But to gain an understanding of their view of reality, let's explore it level by level, from the more familiar outside grounds inward, towards the center of the Circle of Navajo reality. As in the case of the four sacred cardinal mountains, Navajos know all outer forms, phenomena, to be vessels or dressing for indwelling power beings. Outer forms abide at the outer ring of the Circle of Navajo reality and do not possess life or mind. These qualities manifest at deeper levels of reality. At the second level from the outside of the circle, we encounter the Bigistin, the inlying forms or indwellers of the outer phenomena. They are considered to be divine by nature, as they are empowered with the sacred knowledge and are without fault, due to the purity of their inner winds. They exist in a state of sa'anagai, everlasting life, founded upon beauty, bikehozho. We earth-surface walkers are not yet so empowered and so strive to gain their knowledge and state of being through restorative rituals that lead from disorder into the fundamental order of beauty. The indwellers derive their vitality and consciousness from their inner winds. Father Berard Hiley terms these fundamental winds the wind soul. The wind soul composes the Bisizinii, the instanding one, located at the third level into the Circle of Navajo reality. The wind soul's character is not fixed. It is said that after Dawn Woman sends the basic wind soul into a baby's body, other winds may be dispatched later to aid in its maturation. Some account expresses the wind's origin in the four primal elements, earth, water, fire, and air, and the four cardinal light phenomena. Others say that the vibratory force issues from two paired primal winds, inaudible and smooth wind, which are mystically known as Sa'anagai wind and Bikehozho wind. The Navajo theory of conception teaches that the father contributes Sa'anagai wind and the mother Bikehozho wind. From the union comes various forms of body-mind winds. These include little wind, which arises at the moment of conception. It gives the fetus its movement, breath, and life, the vital force. Sometime near the moment of birth, another type of wind, or group of colored winds, enters the baby. It provides cognition and all the necessary higher faculties for coordinating the complex processes of the body-mind. Father Berard's main Navajo consultant, Tall Mustache, explained that there are certain beneficial winds that make for a good wind soul. They include the four-colored cardinal winds and inaudible and smooth winds. They are called right-handed winds, for they turn clockwise around their center. One's right hand faces the center when walking in a clockwise manner. Some winds are left-handed. They spin counterclockwise, anti-sunwise, and therefore go against the proper scheme of things. These include whirlwinds and cyclones. They too can enter the body-mind, but they cause illness and madness. Navajo philosophers provided to Father Berard some vivid examples of the identity of the inner winds. In one scheme, the cardinal light phenomena of east and north have dawn woman and darkness man as their inlying forms. Dawn Woman is a daughter of the divinity White Wind, thus receiving White Wind as her wind soul. Darkness Man is the soul and recipient of the Dark Wind of protective power. White Wind is a particularly desirable wind soul. It is, according to another scheme, the wind soul of Changing Woman, the great goddess. In one account, the white wind of Dawn Woman's father is united with the white wind of her mother, Earth Woman, to give Dawn Woman a completely white wind soul. At maturity, she becomes impregnated by Sky Man and gives birth to Talking God. As a result, both Dawn Woman and Talking God are said to breathe by means of white wind. Both mother and son are therefore of the realm of the white wind and the white light. They are of the dawn and the east. Dawn Woman is the distributor and final repository of the wind souls of living phenomena, people, while Talking God is the initiator and overseer of the progress of the lives of the people. This is the essence of the whiteness of dawn. It is the beginning of awareness, the initiating time of the day and of the cycle of life, the moment of awakening to one's connection with the nature of things. At the basis of the white, indeed all the colored winds of the wind soul, are the two primary winds mentioned earlier, inaudible wind and smooth wind. Tall Mustache described inaudible wind as that which in summer at times blows inaudibly with a cool breeze, even in hot weather. Smooth wind appears when it is cold and there is a warm breeze. Tall Mustache indicated that inaudible wind was to be the wind soul standing within the wind chief of the east. White Wind, the father and grandfather of Dawn Woman and Talking God, inaudible wind, in turn, was considered to be Sa'a Nagai Boy, everlasting life boy. He is the force of life. His inseparable partner is Bikehozho girl, beauty girl. She is associated with the warm breeze of smooth wind and embodies knowledge of the nature of things. Inaudible wind and smooth wind are the links between humans and the holy people. Tall Mustache considered both winds to be absolutely without meanness, without faults, impeccable. White Wind, the progenitor wind, divinity of Dawn Woman and Talking God, has inaudible wind and his inner wind principle. Thus, he too is absolutely without meanness. To be totally impeccable in one's thoughts and actions, that is, to live into old age spiritually renewed, according to the principles of beauty, is to realize the total absence of meanness and rancor in one's life. In this way, one takes on the qualities of the holy people that are already there as a potential in one's body-mind, its wind soul's inventory of winds. This plurality of winds may at first seem dauntingly complex, but to the Navajo mind it is readily reconciled. 7 winds, 4 winds, 2 winds, they all emanate from the same wind, holy wind. Not long ago a Navajo philosopher observed, "They are just one. The one standing within us by means of which we walk is just one. It derives from them. They are just one, but are called by different names." And a contemporary of his offered, "We breathe by means of just one, although we breathe by means of 4. The Navajo understanding of holy wind was effectively summed up by the anthropologist James G. McNally. The Holy Wind Spirit, who is the means of knowledge and life, was placed in the four directions, from where it entered into the holy people, who were later assigned to dwell within the natural phenomena of this world. All elements of the world are animated by indwelling Holy Spirits and given life and the capacity for thought and action by the powers of the Wind Spirit. Thus the earth, the sky, the stars, the moon, the mountains, marking the Navajo lands, the waters, animals, plants, and the people of this world are all attributed with the capacity of thought and for communicating with one another by means of the all-pervading wind spirit, which is the common medium for thought. Both human and non-human thinking is conscious and is of the same fundamental nature, although human thinking lacks the full knowledge which characterizes the holy people. Human thought is guided and strengthened by the superior thought of these holy ones. Through the acquisition of such knowledge, Navajos become aware of their profound connection with Holy Wind, the stuff of life, speech, and thought. Through knowledge of the winds that unite all beings, the Navajo awaken to the ineffable connection between the individual and the greater cosmos. Gray Mustache, a highly respected elder chanter, imparted to his Anglo-American student, John Farella, the following words during their last meeting before his death. The question about these things and all else will ultimately be questions of kinship, how we are related in the beginning. Gray Mustache understood that to comprehend reality, we must understand our connection with things on their most fundamental level. Seeing reality as founded upon holy wind and universal mind is a naturally ordered scheme, gives the Navajo people a sense of harmony, centeredness, and wholeness in their lives. At the heart of the circle of Navajo reality is the fount of the winds in mind. The union of holy wind, supreme sacred wind, and universal mind is not a creator principle, that exoteric notion that Judeo-Christians attribute to their esoteric Godhead principle. Nilchi'i, holy wind, is a glittering, pulsating, breathing fusion of all the animating and enlivening energies of a living cosmos. It is the power behind Nitseheki'is, the universal mind permeating all the elements and phenomena of the cosmos. Together they compose the state of being known as Hosho, beauty, signified by the summit of the sacred peak. Finally, our diagram envisions the Navajo spiritual heroine's journey to beauty along a rainbow trail. The upper trail leads from the realm of phenomena, the outer ring of the circle, to the summit of the central mountain. It is like the rainbow trail that led the warrior twins, the adolescent sons of Changing Woman, on their journey to empowerment by their father, the Sun Bearer. But like the warrior twins, on gaining empowerment, one must return to the phenomenal, the ordinary world, in order to bring sacred wisdom and practices back for the benefit of others. The return is symbolized by the lower band of the rainbow trail. It leads from the beauty of the summit back to the potential beauty of the heroine's world. Wind and mind in Tibetan reality. To Tibetans, wind is one of the essential building blocks of reality and is seen on different levels according to one's understanding. In its grossest external guise, wind blows prayer flags known as wind horses into frenzied rainbows against deep blue skies. This character of wind suggests the force and speed of the wind horse that is one's powerful but unclarified samsaric mind. Like the wild horse, this mind is not yet trained, but when taught to be ridden by the whip of compassionate method, it achieves universal wisdom and brings wealth, health, and blessings like the wish-fulfilling jewels on its saddle. This kind of wind links one's gross mind with one's fortune or luck, and places the body-mind on the path of Tashi Dele, auspicious good fortune. Accompanying the wind horse image are texts that often invoke the most important tantric Buddhas and bodhisattvas by means of sacred syllables or mantras. Mantras are specialized verbalizations that draw upon the power of the breath to aid in setting up an appropriate state of body-mind for receiving blessings and for taking on qualities of a particular tutelary divinity. After the mantras come printed requests for the continued prosperity and longevity of the individual who sponsors the raising of the flags. Consider the message on one such prayer flag. May the life force, body, strength, wind horse, longevity, religious merit, and reputation increase. Victory to the protector warrior gods. Another kind of wind horse flag, dedicated to the epic warrior god of Aboriginal Tibet, Gezar of Ling, contains the following inscription: Master of the flag of glory of the wind horse, great king of the warrior gods and subduer of demons, best of men, Gezar be venerated. Be our mighty Pola, every Tibetan's personal male protective divinity. Raise the wind pillar to the sky, pull up the mu rope of long life, the subtle rainbow-like cord connecting realized beings to the sky. A pillar of wind and a cord of rainbow light are the links between finite earth beings and the infinity of the sky. Clearly, the sense of wind used here goes beyond a physical current of air. On a deeper, more subtle plane, wind horse implies the more essential kind of energy, that of a wind of ebullience, a wind of delight and brilliance that infuses and circulates throughout one's body-mind. According to Trungpa Rinpoche, the wind principle is the energy of basic goodness that can actually radiate tremendous power in your life. He goes on to observe that the basic goodness coming from directly living in tune with the cosmos can be ridden, which is the principle of the horse. By following the disciplines of warriorship, you can harness the wind of goodness. In some sense, the horse is never tamed, but you can invoke and provoke the uplifted energy of basic goodness in your life. For Tibetans, all thoughts, verbalizations, and actions have wind at their foundation. This wind is the energy that controls the body-mind's totality, the outer physical body and the inner energy-composed subtle body. The subtle body cannot readily be measured by technological means, as it is composed of a very fine vibratory energy that flows through equally subtle channels. This energy is measured best, in fact, only by the meter of the inner eye, since it is invisible to our clouded sense faculties. The Tibetans envision the subtle, indwelling body as having a humanoid form, particularly when it is transmuted into a form of a deity during meditative practices. Similarly, the Navajos view their inlying forms, the subtle bodies of essentially all their phenomena, as having divine humanoid shapes. They are, for both, convenient representations of the most subtle the most subtle wind energies. Wind is considered the breath of life and carrier of the mind in both of Tibet's systems of the soul, the Aboriginal Bon and the Buddhist. The former system, their first cognitive paradigm, is still widespread among traditional rural Tibetans. Here, the sentient being is considered to be a composite of subtle and all-pervasive vibratory forces that create life and thought. Underlying one's being or aliveness is the vital force called sok. This is the energy of vitality that creates gross physical movement and flows with the breath. It is a wind-like vibratory energy, having the heart as its source, and it penetrates the entire body. Its loss is the equivalent of what we call death. Sok thus compares well with the Navajo idea of little wind. The Sok provides the basis of life for its mental partner, the La. La is a type of consciousness principle originating in the most subtle vibratory energies permeating the body and the breath, but it is also quite separate from its bodily basis, being a principle of consciousness that need not remain resident in the body for gross life to continue. Its continued absence, however, generally results in serious illness that must be cured through ritual means, commonly known as calling the soul. This is an essential procedure, as a wandering La causes unconsciousness. Then, should it remain lost, physical death. Similarly, since the La-Sok combination has a certain inherent duration of existence, ceremonies may be held to hold back the life in the current body. These ceremonies were originally the provenance of the Shen, indigenous shaman practitioners of the ancient Bon religion. Their Buddhist spiritual counterparts, the Ngakpas or Tantric spellmasters, are the specialists currently called in for the purpose. In addition to being able to move away from the body, the La is capable of simultaneously residing in more than one being or object. This means that the La can exist within one's body, supported by the vibratory wind-like vital force of Sok, and simultaneously within an external object in the natural environment. So the La of a person may also reside in a La Xing, a soul tree, Lam Tso, soul lake, Lari, soul mountain, Layu, soul turquoise, and even Lata, soul horse. Sometimes soul animals are carved from precious stones such as turquoise. These external seats of the soul are highly venerated due to their inherent connection with the person's life and consciousness. Their identities and locations are usually kept secret, since by desecrating or destroying an external seat of the soul, illness, misfortune, or even death may afflict the human source of the La. When a Tibetan has a La restoration rite done, the Lama may instruct him or her to always wear a special soul turquoise around the neck in order to retain the overly mobile La. To complete this discussion of the original Tibetan concept of the connection between wind and mind, we must venture to the great oracle lake of central Tibet. Lamo Lamso, the goddess's soul lake, is perhaps the ultimate of its kind in Tibet. The Lamso soul lake embodies a portion of the La of Palden Lamo, the powerful protectress of the Lhasa Valley, the Tibetan state, and in particular the lineage of Dalai Lamas. That this lake and the fierce goddess's image are different entities is the result of each medium's differing vibratory qualities. One vibrates as lake, the other as an image of the goddess. If there were a human emanation of the goddess, which there isn't, given her incredibly ferocious power, the person too would be imbued with the goddess's law, but a different, definably human vibratory frequency. A natural phenomenon is endowed with a law commensurate with the power and character that the place or being evokes. Accordingly, Palden Lamo's soul lake is no gentle pond in a sylvan glade. It is a glassy, icy stew of glacial milk, fulminating in an austere, wind-scarred bowl of broken rock and jagged snow peaks. Another example of La and lake is Yamdok So, situated high in central Tibet. It is the soul lake of the entire population of Tibet, containing portions of the La of every Tibetan. Recent Chinese construction of a hydroelectric plant along its shores is considered at least as dangerous to the Tibetans as is Chinese colonization. What better setting for such power lakes than the high mountains of Tibet? Mountains, being the most massive and unattainable solid objects on the Earth's surface, are ideal settings for powerful places. Mountains are utterly there. They have distinct and strong vibrations expressing rock-earth gravity weather. They are the source of water, vegetation, fuel, and nourishment for living beings for miles around their massive bases. They exist vividly to the touch and sight, yet at the very apex of their summits, they instantaneously transform into nothingness. They are the ladder that links earth and sky, phenomena and noumena. And just as the Navajo's sacred mountains breathe by means of instanding, subtly formed, human-like divinities who are empowered by holy wind and sacred knowledge, so too do the mountains of Tibet. It is said that the law of a great warrior king, or later in Tibet's spiritual history, bodhisattva hero, may become the indwelling sentience of a particularly significant mountain. Accordingly, great mountains, especially those dominating a vast watershed and having a distinctively powerful character, are associated with the most illustrious of divinities. These take the form of either Drala, aboriginal warrior gods, or in the case of the greatest of all Himalayan peaks, the protectress divinities called the Five Ladies of Long Life. The deity's form is visualized as a subtle energy body composed of Sok and La, the combined wind-borne vital force and consciousness principle. The inlying divinities of the Tibetan peaks abide at their summits in palaces composed of crystalline light. And just as the indwelling divinity is not separate from the mountain, neither is it separate from the beings in the geomantic sphere around the holy peak. A significant Soul Mountain's guardian is simultaneously and inextricably the composite of portions of the laws of all the people, indeed all the sentient beings existing within its watershed. Tibetans have a special name for such a special mountain deity. It is Yullah, god of the country, signifying the widespread power and influence of the indwelling divinity. Since humans, animals, and other sentient beings and phenomena, elements of the microcosm, are inwardly of the same essence as that of the god of the country, the mountain becomes the ladder of spiritual umbilical cord linking these beings with the macrocosm. The mountain is the interface between the real world and the ideal world reality. Let's meet some of the noteworthy regional gods of Tibet by whom Tibetans reckon their nativity. Kumbila is the honorific title given to the regional god of the Khumbu district of highland Nepal by the Sherpa Tibetans. It is a contraction of the name Khumbu Yullah, god of the Khumbu country. This distinctive mountain, looming over 20,000 feet in height, clearly fits Lama Govinda's insightful observation concerning the special and powerful character of sacred mountains. Its symmetrical form and solitary setting above the village of Kumyung give it the perfect physical and metaphysical characteristics of a sacred peak. Kumbila is a warrior god from a class of divinities known for their ability to dispel demons, enemies, and evils from a place or person. His power is clearly represented in its visualized form. The warrior god rides a proud and energized horse and may be haloed in flames. He is dressed in warrior's garb, armor, shield, helmet, sometimes topped by eagle or vulture feathers and flags. In one hand he holds a lance, while in the other he holds the heart of a demoness who would terrorize the land and the people of Khumbu. Below his horse's hooves, along the green slopes of the mountain, are scenes of the life of the people and animals. Sometimes pictured is the Yeti, the abominable snowman, who, like the others, is under Kumbila's protection and shares his essence. If Kumbila is a general in the spiritual army of Tibet, its commander-in-chief must be the protector Nyan Chentangla. His honorific title gives the great Nyan law of means the great Nyan's law of the steplands. As a warrior god, he looks very much like Kumbila, only considerably more regal. He is his mountain's subtle indwelling form. He lives in a palace composed of rainbow light amid glorious forests and waterfalls atop the highest peak in the massive mountain range separating the Lhasa Kichu Valley from the windy, desolate northern steppelands, the Changthang. The Nyan Chentangla range is the northern sacred mountain in the geomancy of central Tibet. A warrior country god entity is also considered to be resident within the body-mind of every Tibetan. It is one of 5 or 6 personal spiritual protector beings known as Goba-i-La. While the title of La, God, is attributed to them, this name is often used here interchangeably with La, consciousness principle. In fact, the personal protector gods of each Tibetan are pieces of the La of various protective power beings. They include the Yule Law in direct connection to the regional country god's law and residing at the crown of the head, the Dra Law for dispelling obstacles, in some cases identical to the Yule Law, the Mo Law or Zang Law, the mother's ancestor's god, Po Law, the father's ancestor's god, a Sokla, the protector of one's vital force, and sometimes other personal divinities. All reside at various points on the body. These powers are born with each person and guide one throughout life. They reveal the interconnected nature of an individual's body-mind with one's genetic line and with the cosmos at large. But the most imposing examples of mountain sentience and power are the laws of the 5 ladies of long life, Tsering Chenpa, or Tsering Chenga. Their realm encompasses the highlands of southern Tibet, or To, stretching east to west along the entire northern watershed of the Himalayas. Among the Himalayas' central massifs stand the peaks inhabited by and embodying these 5 aboriginal protector goddesses. At the center of their rainbow-lit mandala reality resides the emblem of their powers, the senior sister Tasi Siringma, the auspicious lady of long life. Ancient texts and popular oral accounts envision Tashi Tsringma as living in splendor in a crystalline palace atop the Himalayan snow peak known as Tsringma to the Tibetans and Sherpas dwelling on both her flanks, and to the Nepalis as Gauri Shankar. The white-skinned, bejeweled goddess lives amid beautiful gardens and waterfalls where she rides upon a white snow lion. On another great peak lives the auspicious lady of Long Life's famous sister, Miolob Sangma, the immutable Lady of Heaven. She and her personal mountain are known by their honorific title of Chomolungma, Goddess Mother of the Earth. We spiritually somnambulistic Westerners have, in ignorance, named her peak Mount Everest after a British surveyor. The long-life goddesses were persuaded to become defenders of the Buddhist faith, in addition to their aboriginal duties, by Milarepa, the 11th century Yogin saint, who meditated and taught in numerous caves below their summits. After taking oaths of allegiance to Milarepa, their collective law was redirected towards serving the newest cognitive view of reality to inform Tibet's spiritual way of life, Tantric Buddhism. Tantric Buddhism, called the Thunderbolt or Diamond Path, is an experience-based system of mental development. Unlike the gradual system of mental purification of other Buddhist pathways, or the La Sok system of Aboriginal Tibetan belief, Tantra is an active, indeed scientific process for revealing the clarified awareness and developing a purified body of wind, vibratory energies for maintaining the clarified mind. Together they comprise the body and mind of a Buddha, symbolized by the image of the deity Diamond Body. According to the Tantric system, the states of one's Sem, pre-enlightenment consciousness, and subtle body are determined by one's actions, expressions, and thoughts. At its essence, Sem is a luminous, clarified state of awareness, but under ordinary circumstances it is handicapped, having accrued karmic and psycho-emotional impediments that obscure the glow of one's clearly lit awareness. A mind of diffuse light of nondescript colors, Sem, has the potential of becoming one of intensely crystalline, light tinged with rainbows, Yeshe, a mind gone beyond the confines of conventional reality. It should be able to ride like a wind horse on a free-flowing current of immutable life wind through equally subtle body-mind channels that are clear of any blockages. For the ordinary mind, Sem, to transform into its purified state of transcendent mind, Yeshe, it must be supported by winds that vibrate at the proper frequencies, free of interference patterns. When this is accomplished, one's ordinary body changes. According to some tantric practices, a new external subtle body, illusory body, is formed. In other traditions, the material body simply dissolves into its finer energy form, empty body. This may be experienced with proper training during deep sleep, visualization-based meditation, certain dream states, sexual orgasm, or with the dissolution of one's gross bodily elements and wind energies at the time of death. The psychoalchemical distillation process in Tantra produces ever subtler pure bodies, purified states of body-mind. The latter stages yield a luminous and indestructible diamond body, and finally an infinite spiritual body manifesting as light. Along with it comes Sherab, highest cognition, and Rigpa, pure awareness. In short, the purified wind of life, taking the form of an indestructible body of light, serves as the necessary vehicle for the energy of the enlightened mind, also envisioned as light. In order to get a sense of the process of Tantra, it will be helpful to consider it and the earlier La Sok system in the context of the Circle of Tibetan Reality. The Circle of Tibetan Reality. The outer ring of the Circle of Tibetan Reality signifies the state of external form, the gross body, where the pure mind and energy of the sacred mountain manifests least subtly, most coarsely. This is the realm of one's physical body, of all phenomena, of that which we habitually consider to be real. External objects do exist, are real, relatively speaking, but as the Navajo would agree, the existence of outer forms requires that they have indwelling entities that in turn possess the indestructible wind of life and the awareness of mind to ride it. The second ring's level of body-mind existence is called the subtle body. It is envisioned as human-shaped, but of a substance much finer than gross matter. The indwelling pre-Buddhist deity forms in sacred sites in Tibet would properly fit here. According to the Tantric Buddhist view, such subtle winds pulsate through equally subtle nerve channels whose nature is so transparent and fine as to be invisible to our research machines, which are of course designed and programmed according to our projected view of reality. The psychic channels are linked together into the subtle body, whose structures is much like that of the capillaries, veins, and arteries, but invisible to conventional view. The very subtle breath-like vibratory power of this second ring's subtle body, explains Giuseppe Tucci, is of the purest kind, the same in essence and kind as the universal respiration or breathing. Dr. Tucci likens the connection between the vibratory energy of breath and the awareness as that which unifies fire and flame. Both are of the same source and interconnected, but manifest differently to our perception. Tibetan Tantric practitioners and physicians refer to this universal breath as the immutable life wind. It serves as the support for the very subtle spark that is awareness. The more unimpeded and purified the life wind becomes, the farther one gets along the path back to the source, to void's emptiness, symbolized by the summit of the great mountain in the circle of Tibetan reality paradigm. Through the knowledge and practice of Tantra, the coarse wind power, lung, becomes progressively more purified. This body of purified wind energy supports an increasingly more aware and luminous consciousness. The lightning or diamond-like body-mind that is obtained, symbolized by the Buddha, diamond being, is the most effective state for achieving at-one-ment with the emptiness of the void, or Sangye, Se, Buddha nature. The third ring inward of the circle of Tibetan reality is called the mental body. It develops when the subtle body's vibratory energies, its psychic winds, are moved by the power of mind from their various subsidiary capillary and vein-like psychic channels into the subtle body's central channels, energy centers, chakras, where the wind energies distill into essence drops, tigel or bindu. The essence drop that forms at one's heart center is described as being about the size of a sesame seed and radiating the 5 colors of the tantric rainbow. The accumulation of such drops creates a purified subtle body, the ideal foundation upon which the clear light mind can experience the empty nature of reality. The primordial union of the clear light mind and immutable life wind, which is the combination of the most subtle mind and matter, is symbolized by the inner ring at the base of the circle of Tibetan reality's mountain. These two factors are the seeds of life and mind, which are said to move between one incarnation and the next of an enlightened being. The clear light mind is the awareness of the ultimate nature of things, and the immutable life wind is the basis of the purified subtle body for blissfully attaining this state. Their union is the foundation of the sacred mountain, whose summit signifies enlightenment. Tibetans express this union through sacred utterances, which include the Buddhist mantra Om Mani Padme Hum and the even more ancient daily expression Tashi Dele. Achieving the auspicious, enlightened state at the mountain's summit is the goal of every Tibetan's bodhisattva heroine to be. Each embarks on the rainbow path of the teachings at the outer material ring of the mountain's circle of reality. They eventually arrive at the summit, but then must return to the ordinary material world to be of service to others who are still on their paths to the mountain. The stage is now set. Here at our mental fingertips is the fabric of the vast physical and conceptual matrix into which Tibetans and Navajos are born. If we, like them, can awaken to the profound reality of our sacred world and develop a responsible relationship with it, we too may realize our connection with this living, pulsating universe of totally interconnected forms, energies, and ideas. Knowing this, how can one help but develop a sense of wonder, comfort, responsibility, and, in its purest expression, compassion for all beings and objects with which we coexist and interpenetrate in this amazing reality? Is not this awareness true love? Awakening to one's connection with the fabric of existence is the first universal principle of the circle of the spirit. Next, one needs to effectively reckon a place within it all. It is necessary to discover the balancing point between one's outer and inner realities, polar forces, and qualities. This is the subject of the second universal principle of the circle of the spirit. This we know: the earth does not belong to man, man belongs to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life, he is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. Attributed to Sylph, Chief Seattle. We all beings as Buddhas hear all sounds as mantras, know all reality as mandala. Traditional prescription for the tantric way of life. When humans destroy nature, they kill their own human nature. Joseph Campbell. Nature, ever faithful, is to such as trust her faithfulness. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Woodnotes. For those who are awake, the cosmos is one. Heraclitus. Part 2. Balancing and unifying earth and sky. Human life, lasting an instant like a dream, it might be happy, it might be sad, not wishing for joy, not avoiding sadness, may I truly practice the sublime teachings. From the personal prayers of Dojam Rinpoche. There's a great difference between Navajo and Anglo philosophy of life. Anglo philosophy is off to one side. It is very full of things, but is very unlike ours. Navajo philosophy is geared to stability, which is something the white way lacks. Navajo chanter. The Code of Unity. A second universal principle informing the sacred ways of life and thought of the Tibetans and Navajos may be called balancing and unifying earth with sky. It is the process of finding equilibrium between the polar energies affecting oneself and the cosmos at large, which once begun must be extended to a fusion between the individual self and the greater cosmos. It is the dialectical dance of nature that must be relearned by each human generation. It is the two-in-one, or at-one-ment. Tibetans and Navajos have developed numerous ways of describing this primordial union, but the metaphor of the sacred mountain arises constantly in their minds. Mountain peaks are extraordinary places. They are experienced physically through the senses and metaphysically through the powers of mind. Every peak is the site of first and final contact between earth and sky, the point where solid or gross matter, earth, merges, exchanges atoms and energies with the most ephemeral of the four basic elements, which is air. The mountain peak is the mediator between an embodiment of the two aspects of our physical reality. It is very much the earth in its massive rocky presence, yet simultaneously at its summit it is as insubstantial as the sky. A contemporary chanter expressed this universal view when he observed understatedly, "The mountain is the joining point of earth and sky." He was pointing verbally beyond the physical union toward the metaphysical union of what his philosophy terms the lower and upper lives. This bipartite Navajo cosmos is founded upon the seamless union of male energy embodying sky, upper life, and female energy embodying earth, lower life. The lower life is the realm of the Navajo earth goddess Nahadzaa, earth woman. Her head is considered to be Navajo Mountain, the highest point on the reservation. Her body sprawls centrally as Black Mesa, while her legs extend farther south as Balakai Mesa. As the geomantic expression of Mother Earth, this group of earthworks is appropriately called the Pollen Range by traditional Navajo. Pollen is life, just as the earth is life. An earth woman is the principle of terrestrial life and the beauty in all things. Bike Hosho, the lower life, is the sum total of all terrestrial beings, animal, vegetable, and mineral. Terrestrial beings, in turn, bear within themselves a substance and awareness more subtle than pollen, in the form of humanoid holy people and the wind of life and mind.